all the names come from prayer. Somebody who really loves you prays for you when you're born, and that you get your first name. And these names are to guide you in your life. You know, how many of us wish we had that, right? So, are we on the right path? Gosh, how the heck do you know? So these names were something that could guide you. Then you would get a second name around puberty time, because that's a lot of times when we need guidance. It's a big transition. Third name, if you earn it by doing something really selfless and important for your community. And then a fourth name if you are lucky enough to become an elder, and so that's my third name. And I'm going to open with a song, which is very traditional. Now, even in Native board meetings and stuff, and business council meetings, they open with prayer, so it's pretty standard. So this is a song that I was taught came before language. So it's vocable, so it's sounds put together in a certain way. So it's quite cool. So all of the songs, at least for this particular tribe that I'm talking about, which would be the Lakota tribe, we repeat 4 times. 4 is one of the most sacred numbers for most of the tribes. There's so many that I would hesitate to say all of them, but like even for certain tribes, if you ask for something once, okay, no big deal. 4 times, the person's got to do it. Like that's a serious ask. So this will repeat 4 times. Way always how in my culture you're supposed to begin and end things, so you have to give me a little time, like 3 minutes, so I can finish with a song, because sometimes I keep going. All right, so Vince told me the topic, and I think I have to start my whole story in order to tell you how I ended up here. Because I didn't always have my ducks in a row, I guess, how you would say it. And I came from a family that was quite highly dysfunctional. We'll say that, and that would be a nice way to put it, which a lot of you guys may have experienced to different degrees. And so my family was quite broken, and I knew that they were very unhappy that I came out brown and very native looking. My mom was really hopeful that I would look like my little blondie back there, and that didn't happen. And I never understood why she was so worried about this and this. She didn't like my nose either. That one was too big. So I was looking for a safe place, which everybody does. That's in our DNA. We're looking for that. And I found it in school, interestingly enough. I was quite bright, and I did well on these little exams that you have to take. And, you know, there's many types of learners, but we reward one kind of learner in our system. As you know, you've got to be able to, you know, remember things this way, and it's very linear. And so I was able to perform well in that respect. And so in school, you know, people were nice. Well, the teachers were nice, I'll put it that way, and I had school lunches. My family was very, very poor, so the fact that I had regular meals was a real plus. They told me that there was such a thing as the American dream, and that if I worked really, really, really hard, that I could have it. And it looked like, you know, like Leave It to Beaver. I don't know if you guys know that show at the time. You know, it was a really pretty picket fence. It was white. I liked that, and a dog maybe, and mom looked happy, and dad came home at a certain time, and everything looked clean and in its place. And so I thought, well, maybe the problem with my family and my community is poverty, because we are very, very poor. So I thought, well, maybe that's where the sickness started. And so I wanted to do very, very well so that I could fix it for them. That was my motivation. I didn't necessarily care about a great car or a beautiful prom dress or anything like that. I really wanted my family to be well. So I thought, well, my mom seemed to really respect doctors. She was a hypochondriac, so she took us all the time. And to the point where the doctors and I would just roll our eyes, here we are again, we don't have anything wrong with us, okay? So I thought if I became a doctor, maybe my mom would be proud and she would have something to be excited about and talk to people about, and then her self-esteem would grow. I had all these ideas of how it would be, which is very childlike, very sweet, you know, not necessarily the whole picture, but I tried. And probably a lot of you guys have elements of that. And so I want to tell you that to really encourage it, because that way of stepping outside myself, I believe it got me here. So this world will teach you, just think about yourself, right? You don't share with her, don't help her study because you want that A, not her. This world really encourages that. Just focus on the self. And I don't agree with it, and I don't think it leads to peace or happiness, any of those things. So, anyway, just my little 2 cents there. But so I went to very good schools. I got scholarships because, you know, I didn't have any money. But and when I got to these schools, I was really, really excited because I thought, okay, now they're going to be people like myself, and we're going to make the world better. You know, I was Peace Corps all the way. That was me. And I got there, and I found something very different than I expected. And I found a lot of people that understood I didn't have a support system. I was very, as some people would say, very naive. If you told me I do X, Y, and Z, I will believe that you do X, Y, and Z. It didn't occur to me to question that. And so I had a lot of bad experiences. And I grew up that way, so I didn't like it, but I thought, gosh, maybe the whole world's like this. So maybe I gotta toughen up, because it doesn't seem like it's gonna change. And I still wanted to change the world, but I was wondering at this point, like, gosh, this is a big job, because there aren't a lot of people walking in a good way. And so I went to, did my master's. My undergrad was at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland, and then my master's work was at NYU. I liked NYU a lot better because I at least knew what to expect and I could navigate a little bit better. And it didn't matter with all the abuse and everything that's going on. I don't know how, but I got A's. I don't even know how I did it. My husband later said, "How in the heck with all that going on did you do it?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know how I did it. Maybe I learned it when I was small, how to compartmentalize. I don't know." But I got through that, and I had decided no to medicine. Not because I didn't want to help people, but when I was working in the hospitals, you have to do internships. And so I was working in a neurology department, and they were doing testing on the animals, to test the stuff. And I don't know, I couldn't stomach that. And the stuff they were doing, see, the monkey doesn't know, it's knocked out, and then they were doing bad things to it and sticking things where they shouldn't be and all that. And these guys, it's like they had no feeling anymore. And I thought, gosh, is that what medicine is today? I was really confused. And I remember one guy said to me that if you can do anything else, even if it's a hot dog cart, do it, because we don't feel happy. We don't feel like we're here to help people anymore because the insurance companies had changed everything by that point. And they said, look, we know this treatment's better for someone. Instead, we have to follow what the insurance companies tell us that they'll pay for. And they said, we just feel like we're handcuffed. We hate it. Gosh, now what was I going to do? Because, I was going to be a doctor. That's what got me out of there. I just focused on it. And so I was really still trying to find a way to help my people, whoever they were. My mom was trying desperately so I didn't walk around saying I was a Native woman, because she experienced herself, it's dangerous out there. And there are certain groups that, we get kicked around a lot, and that's just the way it is. So that was my mother's experience, and she didn't want me to have that experience. So she said I was Dutch and English. I wish I could have brought my brother today, because you will laugh very hard when you see him. He looks like out of 500 years ago, you open one of those, you just walk onto the prairie, and there's my brother. He's got hair down to here, and very beautiful Native man. But we'd go to family reunions and say, look at each other and go, what the heck? And we'd say, Mom, if we're Dutch and English, why are we so brown? And she'd say, that's enough, that is the touch of the Spanish conquistador blood. Now zip it. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I knew there was things that were not right, and I just had to figure out what they were. I had a wonderful teacher, undergrad, my last semester, and he was a journalism professor. And his family owned all the newspapers in Montana. And I loved to write. I loved it. It was so fun. I thought, you can have a job that's fun, it's more like torture. That's kind of how I grew up. And how do you make a living if it's so fun? And how does it help people if it's fun? I couldn't figure that out. But I thought, well, journalism, at least there's deadlines. Those are stressful. And there's a beginning and an end. You got to jump to things. I thought, well, maybe I could do that. And what I really liked was telling people stories. Because what I noticed is when people don't know their story, or they're not allowed to know their story, something's broken inside. I thought, well, I could help with that. I could be a voice. When I was little, my grandmother spoke, she spoke a Mayan dialect, but she knew Spanish. That's what I heard her speaking. And so I used to have to help her go to the store and order the milk and all that stuff. So I thought I could do that. It's kind of like helping grandma at the grocery store. I could do that. So then I went to NYU, and I pursued, it's a joint master's. It's journalism and Latin American Caribbean studies, but I couldn't find any Native stuff at the time. And probably wouldn't have known I could have taken it anyway, if that makes sense. My head just wasn't, I didn't quite grasp that yet. And I had one professor, and I was so upset with her, and I just knew she wasn't treating me the same as the other students, and I was tired of it. I was doing my best. I would do these pieces, and I was always trying to make them pieces that counted. It's always women and the children. That was always my thing. It's women and the kids, and their rights, and I'm sure everybody in the class was really sick of it, but I couldn't help myself. That was just here. It was just coming out. she was send it back again, right? Do this again, correct this, do this. I thought, this woman has it out for me. So I decided I was going to drop her class, and I was really proud of myself. Like, I'm going to stand up to this lady, whoever she's bullying me or whatever. So I remember I went into her room, her office, and she said, "Hi, Yvette, what do you have today?" I said, I am here, and I'm going to drop your class. Thank you so much. It was a great experience. I was so like, haha, I did it. And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry to see that you're going to do that." And I said, "Well, why?" And she said, "Yvette, I think you've noticed that I push you." And I said, "Yes, I have." And she said, "It's because you can do better. The other ones can't, but I know you can. I can tell." And I went, "Oh man, this lady's good." And I just went, "Oh, I had no idea." Like she thought I could be more. And that's completely how to work with me. I grabbed that paper, went, no, I'm good, I'm sorry, and I was out of there. And after that, I became a journalist that day. That was what I was going to do. And one thing she taught me that was really important was, one, of course, that you can't hide what you are, right? I mean, I'm sure you can see, Vince, the students that have more inside. You can just feel it. And I was taught to dumb myself down. And this woman could spot me. And I just thought, well, then let's take the mask off. Let's go for it. That helped me tremendously. And then the other thing was, she said, "Look, decide what type of journalist you're going to be right now, today. If you're going to work for the National Enquirer, go for it. Start today. If you're going to do the New York Times, start today." And she just named all these different types of publications. Just decide now and don't turn back. And so at that point, I decided I was going to find the truth. Whatever that was, I was going to be an investigative reporter. And I didn't care if people didn't, well, I did care. I didn't want to upset anybody. I should correct that. I always care about that. But whatever it was, I was trying to uncover what was making this world not work right. And so my first real job I took at a newspaper. I chose because the editor did not speak English, and I knew I could write whatever I felt I needed to write, and that had great value to me. So I could write at a more established paper, and then writing obits, really, is what I would be doing. Or I could write for a smaller paper that wasn't as highly recognized, and I could go for it. So I chose that, and I had a lot of fun. And as I would go out and cover stories, I would look and see what the newspaper was covering or the news was covering was not what the people were saying was going on. They had emotion, they had feelings about things that was opposite of what I would see in print or I would see on the television. That was weird to me. What's that, right? I just had to keep it right in the middle. I remember I started covering education, which was very strange to me. I don't know why, I didn't expect that. And it got political, and I really didn't expect that. But I remember at one point, this was in San Diego, and there were principals that were getting fired. And they were ethnic principals, so African American, Native, Hispanic, people of color, and they were getting fired and replaced by people from outside the community, usually Caucasian, whatever. Well, actually, one of my professors said Caucasian is just a weird term. So we'll say of European descent, I guess. But more importantly than the skin color was the fact that they couldn't connect to that population. And I thought that was weird. I was wondering why they were replacing the people that the community felt comfortable with an outsider. That was really the issue, not the color of the skin. And I didn't understand what was going on there. So I started to delve into that. And at a certain point, it got really heavy. It was every week I was hitting this. And it got to the point where I would go to some of these meetings, and they were constructing the meetings to make fun of me, which was really weird. I'm thinking, I just work for this rag, really. I mean, I'm not, but they would orchestrate the whole thing to pick off certain things I had said the week before or the week before that. I remember calling that same journalism professor and said, all right, something's strange, and I'm not sure what to do. She explained, I said, she described it to me. So I did, and she said, Yvette, if they're going through that much trouble, you're on to something. She goes, put your nose to the ground, keep going. I said, all right, thank you, hang on. So there was this one woman, if I look back, and I trusted her. After she had nailed me like that the first time, and the work that she did, she was working for newspapers, writing books, she cared about people. And so reach out to her sometimes, and she helped me a lot, and I just listened to her. And that was one thing. If you do find somebody who you believe 100% you can trust, and hopefully they really are trustworthy, you hold on to them, And sometimes that can be hard, right? Because maybe you're not quite the right one to trust. But in this case, she turned out to be a good one. And after that, I got tired. When I met my husband, I asked him if he could walk me to my car, and he said, "Well, sure. Why?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just getting these bomb threats." And he said, "What the heck?" And I said, "It's nothing." And he said, "What are you talking? Oh no, it's just." And at that point, he was trying to leave me out of that, because for me, I grew up in a dangerous household, so I was kind of used to it. But he decided that was not a-okay, so I didn't get bombed, but they would send me weird envelopes and everything, and it was strange. But later, I figured out that there was a lot of money that was going through a lot of contracts, and you might know a lot about this, Vince, when someone takes over the school system, they're responsible they get to say, okay, you're going to do the new textbooks next year, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And so this guy was doing that with all of his friends. And so a lot of the hiring and firing had to do with friends of his that needed jobs. Well, I didn't know, I just knew something was strange. And so I just kept poking. So, sorry, those are I actually have 5 of them. The 2 older ones are not home anymore, but those are the other 3. So after that, I listened to him, and I decided I was going to do nonprofit stuff, help nonprofit people raise money. And I liked the causes you could not raise. After 9/11, you can't raise money for Middle Eastern people. They're trying to come into the country. So I would take things like that. It was really fun. And, a lot of sex trafficking victims that needed to escape their countries and needed asylum. I would work on those. And then one day, my husband said to me, "Yvette, you really need to know for sure that you are." And I was pregnant with the older one there. And he'd always been bugging me. "What tribe are you?" I'd say, "I'm not. I'm Dutch and English." And he would laugh and say, "Yvette, you are such an educated woman to believe that hooey." And I said, "Well, it would upset me, because emotionally, if you've been taught one thing your whole life, and it seems like a simple comment, but you get anxiety, your head hurts." And I just thought, this guy's bugging me. So finally I said, all right. I said, because just for my son, because I don't want you saying things that are not true, because I was just pregnant at the time. I said, I will get my DNA done, and then I want you to zip it, and that's it. I don't want to hear it anymore. He said, fine, with a big smile. So I sent my DNA stuff away, and I remember the day it came back, and it was 100% native, only native on my mom's side, and I had to sit there because I don't know if any of you have had this experience. When a big reality shift happens, you feel nauseous, like it's disorienting. And I had to sit there and go, oh, what? So here, because I'm thinking, okay, touch of Spanish, Smoky Southern blood. At least I'm Hispanic. So I'd be putting that on all my papers. I worked for a Hispanic paper. I was there. I'd go to Mexico. I'd speak Spanish. I was all over it. I had to sit there and go, wow, okay. What does that mean? And then, why are they covering it up? Here's the journalist training. So I started looking, family photos, the whole thing. And what I realized was, wow, this is a way better story. This is way better, What happened to the native people in this country is way more covered up and more important, and gosh, it destroyed a lot of people, And the cover-up still hurts people today, just because it's covered up. If we just get it out there, we can deal with it. We can overcome it altogether. So, total shift, start a 501c3 for Native causes. All that energy just went this way. And I remember I found photos of, how are we doing time-wise?
Good,
okay.
Good.
I found photos of my great-great-grandfather. That was weird, because I'd never known where my hands came from, where certain features came from. My mom's really small. I'm 5'9", my mom's like this, because her mother's Mayan. I tell people my grandmother's this tall. She's this little lady from the Yucatan. And then I came out like kind of giant compared to them. And I couldn't figure that out. But they were very hush-hush about who her father was. But if you line the kids up, you could tell, same dad, same dad, same dad. I don't know who this person's dad is. That was my mom. So I found, at the time, the government was taking the native chiefs and they would photograph them. So you can find them in the museums, these pictures, and they all had to wear the same clothing. So they showed up for the photograph because they were asked to come. And then they were wearing their buckskin and their chokers and all their things. And then they put a horse blanket around them to cover the yucky clothes, right? So, and I remember when I first started wearing my traditional clothes, boy, it was weird. Because I didn't know how, I didn't like to stand out. Come on, you walk down the street like this, a little bit different. Now it's my favorite thing ever. You know, I miss it when I don't get to wear it. It's me now. But at the time, I'm trying this on. I'm like, okay, I want to be honest. I want to be raising my kids in a truthful manner. And okay, this is different, you know. So when I saw this picture, it changed everything for me. And you couldn't deny. You know, I look very much like him. And he had his an officer's coat on. They would put an officer coat on them, again, to cover up the inappropriate clothing. And then they put a big cross, a big aluminum cross over his choker. And then he had a medallion, a St. Christopher medal, that you could tell was his because the way he was holding it. It was a very interesting photograph. And I stared at it for a long time, and I would go think about it and go back to it, and I realized that's where it started, where you had to start hiding who you were. It started then. So how many generations had it gone on? You know, 5 generations, I don't know. I mean, you look at it, and they show up in their clothing, and then they're somebody else now. And I grew up like that. I grew up somebody else. And it didn't fit. It didn't work. I even dyed my hair blonde. I mean, people could still tell. How weird is that? And I remember when on the first or second date, honey, second date, he said, you know, why don't you just have your normal hair color? I mean, I said, really? That'd be great. Because I really don't like doing this. And so I didn't know it was okay to have my normal hair color because as we can tell, when we go home, we can tell our family's approval rate or disapproval rate in their face, the mannerisms, the energy they send out. They were happy when I was blonde. I had a certain type of clothing and I behaved a certain way. They roll in their graves. Saying this is not acceptable. So I have extra joy because I think, I think their heads are not on straight. And so if this doesn't please them, I know it's not because they're not well. So if they were who they really are, they'd be really happy that I get to walk around like this and live this way because they didn't get to. You know, I'm not upset with them anymore. I get it now. Now I just think, gosh, I'm going to do what you weren't able to do and honor the fact that you tried so hard. I mean, for my mom, she gave me a totally European name. So she married a man who's not my biological father, but he was from Holland. So he has a very Dutch name. So she thought that was really great, a total incognito. So my given name is Yvette Johanna ten Beek. Oh, that was fabulous, right? Nobody could tell. And I remember when I was going to go off to college, and she said, Yvette, I gave you a good name. So just don't tell. They'll never know. It'll keep you safe. I thought, it's her best way to keep me safe, is how she felt. So after that, I had a very big tragedy happen. And I won't go into details because I don't want to make everybody sad. But it was the worst thing that could ever happen to a lady, really. A mom, a wife. It was terrible. And I was supposed to die, right? I was dying. And the doctors couldn't do anything. And I didn't go into this last time, but this is what they're going to get today. So, all right. And modern medicine didn't have anything for me. Remember, I was going to be a doctor because I was going to fix people, going to help them so they could be well, happy, whatever that was. And so I went to these doctors and they couldn't fix it. And as they said, look, modern medicine doesn't have anything for this. All we can do is, it was very, very severe PTSD. So if any of you guys know about post-traumatic stress disorder, literally they can't find you anymore. Your mind goes back to that incident and it can stay there. And so like the Vietnam vets, they'll be shopping and then somebody's car comes by and I don't know a lot about cars, but that blowout out of the muffler, and they're ducking under the tomatoes and under the avocados and they're back in Vietnam. I was like that. And so at that point, I had to decide if I cared about living or not. And as you can tell, I'm rather extreme. So I had moments when I was lucid, like not back in the terrible thing that happened. And I remember my husband had brought me to the best neurologist that they had. She She ran a teaching institution for brain research, a very nice lady. So good at what she did that she could admit to me that they didn't have all the answers. I respect that, right? That's someone who said, look, here are our limitations. Here's what I can do. And it's not much, and I'm really sorry. So what she said is that they were going to heavily sedate me forever. And so that way though, maybe I wouldn't have big panic attacks and I could go to the grocery store, and if I saw the tomato, I wouldn't switch and think it was blood and freak out, right? So I remember I was there at that moment. I wasn't like somewhere else. And I remember looking at her, here's my husband, thinking, okay, this is our life, And I said, oh, so you guys don't have a cure for what's wrong with me? And she said, no, we don't. And I said, oh. And so you're just going to give me a lot of drugs? She goes, yes. And I said, oh. I said, okay, well, I really appreciate everything because I can really tell you're trying to help me. Her name was Beth. And I said, so, but I'm not going to do that. And she said, what? And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And she said, well, Yvette, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't really know. I said, my ancestors, they didn't walk around crazier. I don't know what they did, but I know they had medicine for this. So I'm just going to, I think it was with God or something. I don't know. But I'm going to figure that out, and that's what I'm going to do. And my husband's like, oh my gosh, here we go. I was serious. That wasn't me in La La Land. That's what I was going to do. And she looked at me and she said, Yvette, she said, we know that Native America had something, but we don't understand what it was because they won't share it with us. So all I know is that I can get my patients to a certain point and then they revert, and I don't know why. And I would really like to know. She said, well, can you do me a favor? And I said, absolutely. She said, and then she paused, and she goes, no, when? She said, when you get better, can you come and share with me what you learned and what you did so I can really help some of these people? I said, you have a deal. Gave her a big hug. My husband's, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And that started a whole new life for me. And later what I would learn is that my response was very, very traditional for my people. You had to go up rather than out. Like in this culture, we just like, right, these are our options. We stop here. In my culture, you go up. So like the Cheyenne people, I have a number of different tribes in here, but that's the one I resonate with very closely. They had a saying, in times of great tragedy, it's creator first. In times of great celebration, it's creator first. You never go wrong. So I had some people help me because I was not praying very well at that time. I honestly just thought if something like that could happen, and then plus my life before that and all the difficulty, well, there may be a God, and I'm sure there is one, but he's not there for me. That was where I was, which is one of the reasons I was so sick. And I'm not talking church. I'm talking God, if that makes sense. And so I had some other people who started to try to help me pray. My husband, some friends on one of the Indian reservations. And everything changed. And I started to be able to feel and hear another realm, if that makes sense. So what people say here, what your guardian angel, heaven, that's how my ancestors walked around. I didn't understand what that meant, and then I was starting to, and it was completely different. So then you got to ask yourself, if you're out the door and God comes in a way and you can't deny it, what do you do? What do you do? And my husband asked me, what are we going to do now? I said, I think we have to change everything. Change everything. So, ladies, the choice of mate matters. A lot of times we don't think we can choose because we're in circumstances or something happens that you didn't plan and you're trying to legitimize everything. Whatever, you're pregnant, you're going to keep that dad for the baby, whatever it is. Boy, who you choose matters. And don't think you don't have a choice because, and I hope it's okay to say this, honey, but my husband's very emotional. He's very up and down, and I'm very steady. I don't like the emotion, but when it hits the fan, he will stand there, and he will be there, and he will step up to the plate. So when I needed it most, he didn't bail on me. And when I told him we had to change everything, he did it. Choose really, really carefully. And one thing I noticed, because there are lots of people that come and go in your life, and one thing I noticed about my husband was he tried really, really hard. He wasn't perfect. He had the up and down.
You have some of my students in here, they know this.
Yes, so you know this. And, but he always tries his best. And I thought, you know what, that could last a lifetime. And you men, pick carefully. Because she may ask you to do something like change everything. And then you get to decide. So, all right, so what do I do now? I did very well in the world, right? Sort of the Western world. I got very good grades, and I won awards, which I used to say, are you going to go to that award ceremony? I'm like, no. I throw the letter in, thinking, Dad, I think that's real. I was like, I don't think it is. I wasn't one, we joke too, because I don't know if any of you have seen that movie where, you might know it, Vince, or Sean, do you remember the movie where the person has awards, it's a doctor, he has awards all the way up the wall, and then one on the ceiling? It's a joke about, people that keep all their awards and everything.
Sounds kind of like my office.
Exactly. So, and my husband would say, you guys, those things matter. Like they're important. Really, it wasn't why I was doing it. And so he's very sweet, and I'll go do things, and he makes up my little awards and frames, and he hangs them up for me. And I would never get myself together to do that. And I think the combination is really good. So what do we do now? We moved here, and people say, why in the world did you move to Florence, Alabama? And even my husband said, you want to move here? I said, yeah, I love it here. And he said, why? He said, but I thought you would want to live with a lot of brown people, like Florida or something. I said, honey, they're all brown. I said, ask them. Ask them who their grandma is. Ask them who their great-grandmother is. I said, I love it. So I remember going to the bank, when we were visiting. We stayed for a period of time doing some work for a colleague of his. And the woman would tell me about her grandmother who's Cherokee and then this and that. And the next time I'd go, she'd have a huge box. And so I'd go to do my banking, and she'd pull up this box and say, do you have 5 minutes? Okay, I was wondering what this symbol meant and what this, and I just thought, gosh, they have nowhere to go to celebrate their culture, to learn about their culture. Gosh, I remember how that felt. And I just knew that this would be a good place for my family and for my kids. My kids walk around and talk about angels or God, nobody laughs at them. California, it's not like that. South Dakota, not fun to be Indian. Everyone here is really, really welcoming and nice. And I remember sometimes they'd stop the car. In Alabama, you're very respectful about things, but they couldn't help themselves. And I'd be walking down the street, and someone would stop and say, excuse me, and not creepy like in other cities. Yes? Are you an Indian? I'd say, yes, ma'am. Oh, I thought so. Well, and I don't know. To me, I just love that. And so I just said to my husband, we're going to plant our flag here. And he said, oh gosh, what does that mean? I said, this is where we're going to live. And he said, okay, then. So we moved here, and for my culture, another way you make big decisions is you go and you do like a pilgrimage. So like how people go to Jerusalem. My grandmother saved all her life to go to Jerusalem, and she was going to do her prayers there. There's a mountain in South Dakota where my ancestors would go and pray. And there aren't any particular fancy prayers. It's this is what matters. And so you climb, and my kids are tired. Keep climbing. And so I had a vision up there, meaning Creator communicated with me, and this was the suggestion as an answer to my prayer. And I was not a big horse person. We have no money, so I couldn't even feed my cat. I was not that. And I think honestly that's one of the reasons it works, is because I have no preconceived ideas of what's possible or impossible in what I'm about to show you. I'm also doing my PhD now out of the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and I'm in their Indigenous Studies program, which is so much fun. So I told my husband, it's like sitting in a truck driving across country with you, just chatting. These are all the things I agree with, perspective I agree with. It's really nice. So as much as I had to fight it at Hopkins and at NYU, I could be me. And and they love it, and they give me fellowships for it, and it amazes me. So, is it working or no? Because if this doesn't work, then just tell
I'm
them
sure
you
it
need
will.
to
I
go
just
to
need someone
my
smarter
house.
than I am. Would somebody turn off one of the lights back there so we can kind of see the screen a little better? And I'm going to press buttons
I think that's wise.
until the magic
That's
happens.
how I do it. You know, they have an Alaskan native saying, and it says, living a life that feels just right. That we should all strive for that. Not like you have anxiety because it's not right, and then they give you something to make the anxiety symptoms go away, but wait, the anxiety was there to tell you something wasn't right, so you could change it. Not like that. Meaning, it's imbalanced, and you're living in the right way. So that's a saying that I really love, and this helps me to do that. So we're gonna test your skills.
We need a saying for how to make this work. That's
Well,
what
is
we need.
anybody technologically savvy here? That's right. Maybe one of you can.
I don't know if they have done something here. Okay. Well, it's not on the screen. How do you get over there, Sean?
Do you know? Wow.
Yay.
This is amazing.
Well, don't be amazed. You should be able to move over, huh? Doesn't let us out, huh? Menu select? No? Alright, let's see.
Maybe we have another remote.
Alright, here we go. Here we go. Oh, I was there a second ago. Menu. Video.
How about picture?
No, it's not letting me out of video. Hold on a second. Menu. DVD, SDI. Video.
Yeah, change the input. That's maybe what we need to do.
Yeah, I'm trying. Input. Okay. How do you type something? This is a lot more interesting than mine. We can put up. Can we put your computer on, honey? Is it possible?
If you think it'll work, you can. I don't know how.
Probably have about 2 minutes.
You keep talking, I'll keep
Okay,
fooling.
so I'm gonna do the closing song now to see if they can figure it out, and then I'm just gonna tell you what our place is, and then hopefully they can get something.
Tell it, and then do this closing song.
Okay. So we have probably.
Here.
I like to be
Excuse me,
conservative,
sorry.
so let's say the fourth largest herd of native horses in the world. At our place, we have a buffalo herd, we have Navajo 4-horn sheep. We've gathered the sacred animals that our people would pray with that are endangered. And in my culture, if you want to understand something, you walk it. Right? None of this just looking in the book. You live it, you walk it, you breathe it, and you're going to learn a depth that you can't learn from books are nice, I love reading, but it's very different. And so what I learned from this was, wait a second, history's wrong. You know, they say that Columbus brought the horses over, and so we owe all the horses to Europe, and isn't that nice and tidy with a bow? Excuse me. So I know my ancestors didn't lie, and they say something different. They say that the horse was always here, and that they had a relationship with it, and it was really different.
That's working.
And it was based on different principles.
I can hold it up.
So what I did is we gathered
Seriously.
representations of what's left, or not many.
That's all right.
And so that's what my
All right, guys.
dissertation work is on. And
Here's the
so,
pictures. So you can squint.
But the truth is, Vince can just bring you to my house. That'll be a lot more fun.
Yes,
So
we've been working on it.
if you guys just figure that out, then we don't need this, and then you have something to look for.
have to use technology.
So,
Which is good.
Which is good. I need Dillard from my office
and then
desk.
I can explain it to you in a more traditional way anyway, because you get to experience it. So you're invited, bug him, figure out a date, and come to my
Here's
home.
my wife, the
And then
teepee.
you can see what we're doing and how I,
That's one
what I do now.
Little stripy legs.
Okay, this is a thank you song, so I'm gonna close in a traditional way. So
Pretty unusual looking
basically,
animal.
any exchange, like we now know something, or you know something about me, and I wish I could know more about you, but when you come to my house, we'll have some more time. And so you open it with a prayer, and then you're gonna close the ceremony. So rather than this is just a lecture, you get a window into me, and then maybe next time I get a window into you, and so we have something real. All right, so this is a very old song, and it's a thank you song, appreciation song. That was actually a horse song. I was like, wait a second, a different song's coming out. Anyway, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, and we will go and see the horses. You all will love them. You will love them.
Can it be an honors of it?
Yes.
There you go. He loved that. He was
Did you have the?
I mean, not like, maybe we can take.
Do you have your zip drive there? Okay. Last week she had.
Did you like my note? I thought you would. I played a little politics there for you. I hope it was okay.
Last week she had one of her parishioners. An attorney here, did a lot of indigent defense. Been a corporate attorney and then decided, no, I want something else. You know, often the case with people who want to had about a week of nonstop. She could not speak. But that was a week ago, and she's kind of coming back.
She has a 24/7 job.
Where she could come and just press that.
She mentioned that this was before this. She said, church politics right now are real bad where she's working.
She just needs a safe place to
And that's
be.
what she said. That's what she said. I need to call a vet, and I need to go out there
Well,
because
please tell her I asked of her and that she is welcome anytime. She can just text me and come, and I don't even, nobody had, I can keep everyone away from her. She can just be.
well, and my assistant director.
Yeah, we gotta go for that.
We gotta. She
She had mentioned
covered the last night's storm for me.
He does want to.
And she was one of the cyclists. And